Good afternoon, dear members of commission, teacher, and colleague. A term paper on the topic the role of context in translation of English technical terminological literature is brought to your attention. The relevant and choice of the research topic is determined by the high significance and insufficient study of technical translation and the role of context in the translation of English technical terminological literature. The object of the study is the concept and role of context in translation of English technical terminological literature. The subject of the study is the influence of the context in the formation of the text in translation. Scientific novelty, there is a definition of the specific of the translation of technical text and definition of the main features of the context. The main task of the research to identify the theoretical background of the research, in particular to analyze the peculiarities of the translation of English terminology, explore the concept of terminology in science, identify the features of the technical text, form a definition of context in modern linguistics, and explore the type and role of context in translation. The first question I would like to draw your attention to is the concept of terminology in science. Terminology is primarily a science that deals with a study of special vocabulary. At the moment, terminology is divided into the following areas: theoretical, general, typological, comparative, semasiological, onomasiological, historical, and functional. Due to the content complication and debates in linguistics, there are many different definitions of the term. Ahmadova defines the term as a word or word combination of a special language, which was created, obtained, or borrowed for precise expression of special concept and designation of special subject. Karaban defines the term as a linguistic science representing the concept of a special professional branch of science or technology. I would like to note that the largest number of terms were created in the Ukrainian language on the basis of Greek Latinism and the terminology of Germanic and partly Romance languages. Terminology has developed its own specific system of term formation methods, which is significantly different from the traditional way of word formation in the Ukrainian language. The following methods of term formation are defined: lexical, semantic, morphological, lexical, synthetic. Lexical-semantic term formation is a method of language nomination according to which the main method of creating a new term is semantic development of a word. With the morphological method of term formation, a new term is formed on the basis of one or more derived bases with the help of word-forming affixes. With the help of the lexical synthetic method, two or multi-number terminological combinations are formed. The next question we will consider is the peculiarities of the translation of a scientific and technical text. When translating a scientific and technical text, one has to solve a whole complex of various tasks at the same time. This process requires not only perfect command of language, certain industrial knowledge, but also maximum efforts on the part of the translator. Since when translating scientific and technical literature, as a rule, there is no need to look for any hidden meaning in the text. It's necessary to strive for special terminological accuracy. The main requirement for scientific and technical translation is adequate transfer of information. The difficulties in translation are caused, first of all, by conveying the correct meaning of each sentence, which very often doesn't correspond to a literal translation. The criteria of adequate scientific and technical translation are clearly formulated. The translation must accurately convey the content of the original. Availability of a generally accepted language for the translation of terminology. Compliance with the norm of scientific and terminological literature. The quality of the translation of scientific and technical literature depends on the features of these types of literature and the level of linguistic and general training of the translator. In nowadays, it often happens that the final version of the translation is edited by a specialist who know this area. To understand that is precisely scientific and technical literature is not enough to pay attention to the characteristic features, accuracy and brevity of expression of opinion, logical sequence and completeness of the presentation. Information saturation. Translation of this kind of text has special difficulties. In this case, it's recommended to familiarize yourself with the literature in which the relevant terminology is present in a more or less expanded context. As the context of the message determines the choice of grammatical and lexical meaning of a specific language, taking into account the peculiarities of language communication. This proves to us that context is an important component when choosing linguistic meaning to express meaning during translation. Therefore, the context determines the choice of one or another correspondence during translator, or the refusal to use known correspondence and the need to find other way of translation. Without taking account the context, a correct understanding of the language and therefore its translation is impossible. The translator misunderstanding of the type of context can lead to translation mistakes of various kinds. Linguistics distinguish between different types of mistakes. Mistake due to misunderstanding the meaning of the source text, mistakes of understanding at the sign concept level, mistakes of understanding at the level of a sign in a complex concept, mistakes of understanding at the sign judgment level, mistakes in understanding the subject situation, translation mistakes at the stage of the re-expression of the meaning system, and stylistic mistakes. Linguistics distinguish the following stage during technical translation: learning the meaning of the word in context, transfer of the meaning by means of, for example, the Ukrainian language, that is actually what a technical translator is. In our opinion, these stages are closely related. Having understood the meaning of the words, the translator at the same time begin to look for Ukrainian equivalent. After that, he returned to English to clarify its meaning. This leads us to think that a very analysis of the context during the translation is my most important and decisive importance. We all know that most words have multiple meanings. From this, it can be concluded that it's possible to establish in what meaning the word is used, in this case only from by context. We also made the following conclusion. Thank you for your attention.